Review these questions before listening to the chapter. Number 1, why was Little Bear's wife called Bright Stars? Number 2, who became blood brothers? Number 3, where was Omri's mom going to keep the key? Chapter 16, Brothers. Omri had fully intended to go to sleep. Patrick did, almost immediately, but Omri couldn't, tired though he was. Instead, he lay in the candlelight, his head turned toward the table where Boone lay, and Little Bear sat cross-legged next to him, erect and watchful. Sometimes Omri could close his eyes, but he did no more than doze. Each time he opened them, he could meet Little Bear's unblinking stare. It was partly the rat that kept Omri awake. It pattered around under the floor for hours, making Omri nervous, but it never came anywhere near the men. No, that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was Omri's thoughts. What was he going to do? He would bring Little Bear's woman to life as he had promised, but then what? It had been hard enough with only one little being to feed, protect, and keep secret. Much harder than after Boone came. Now there'd be 3, and one a woman. Young as he was, Omri knew that 1 woman and 2 men spelled trouble. And what if there should be children? For all Little Bear's unpredictable moods, his demands, his occasional cruelties, Omri liked him. He wanted to keep him, but he knew now that that was impossible. Whichever way he thought about it, the end was the same disaster of some kind. Whatever magic had brought this strange adventure about must be put to use again, to send the little people back to their own place and time. Having decided this, however, sadly and reluctantly, Omri's stressful thoughts let go their hold on him. He drifted off to sleep. When he opened his eyes again, dawn was breaking. The morning chorus of birds was just beginning. The candle had burned itself out. The rat had gone to sleep. So had Little Bear, nodding over his bow. Omri peered closely at Boone. The yellow field dressing on his wound moved steadily up and down. His skin had lost that gray look. He was better. Of course, Little Bear shouldn't have gone to sleep, but just the same, he had done his best. Omri slipped out of bed. His blazer was hanging from a hook at the back of his door. He took the paper bag with the woman in it out of his pocket. Moving on tiptoe, he went to the cupboard, took out the plastic soldier, put in the plastic Indian girl, and locked the cupboard door again. When he heard little movements, he unlocked the cupboard and opened the door a crack, so she wouldn't be frightened in the dark. Then he got back into bed, covered himself up all except his eyes, and stayed perfectly still to watch what would happen. At first nothing did. Then slowly, stealthily, the door was pushed a little farther open. Out crept a beautiful Indian girl. There was enough light in the room now for Omri to see the black of her hair, the chestnut brown of her skin, the bright red of her dress. He couldn't see her expression, but he guessed she was bewildered. She glanced all around, and at once spotted Boone lying on the ground, and Little Bear dozing beside him. She approached them cautiously. For a few moments she lingered behind Little Bear, clearly not sure whether she should touch and wake him or not. She decided against it, and circling Boone's feet, sat herself cross-legged on his other side, facing Little Bear. She sat staring at him. The 3 of them were so utterly still that they might still have been plastic. Then a blackbird outside gave a particularly loud chirp, and Little Bear sat up sharply. At once he saw her. His whole body gave a jolt. Omri felt a prickling up the back of his neck. The way they looked at each other, it went on a long time. Then slowly, and both together, they rose to their feet. Little Bear spoke to her quietly in a strange language. She answered. He He smiled, standing there on either side of Boone, not touching. They talked for some minutes in low voices. Then he put out his hand, and she put hers into it. They stood silently, then their hands dropped. Little Bear pointed at Boone and began talking again. The girl crouched down, touched Boone gently and expertly. She looked up at Little Bear and nodded. Then Little Bear looked around the room. He saw Omri. Omri put his finger to his lips and shook his head, as if to say, "Don't tell her about me." Little Bear nodded. He took the girl by the hand and led her to the seed box, up the ramp, and into the longhouse. After a moment or two, he came out again. He ran the length of the table till he stood on its edge as near to Omri as he could get. "Do you like her?" Omri asked. Little Bear put his hands to his belt and unfastened it. "I like. Fit wife for chief. I pay much for her." And he handed Omri the belt, made of the shiny white beads. "Now Omri hear Little Bear. Woman say, Boone good. Not die. Little Bear please. Omri take Boone, put in longhouse. Woman take care. Give little medicine." He held up the pill boxes. "Omri get food. Make wedding feast." "How can you have a wedding feast with only 2 Indians?" "Yes, not good. Omri make more Indian. Come to feast?" he asked hopefully. When Omri shook his head, Little Bear's face fell. "Little Bear, wouldn't you rather have your wedding feast at home with your own tribe?" Little Bear was no fool. He understood at once. He stood still, staring at Omri. Omri put in box. "Send back," he said. His voice was very flat. Omri couldn't tell if he liked the idea or not. "What do you think? Wouldn't it be better?" Very slowly the Indian nodded his head. "And Boone?" "Boone too. Make him my brother first." "Yes, then I'll send you all back." "When?" "When Boone's well enough." Once Omri had decided, every day that passed was important because it was one day nearer to the last. Patrick was as sad as he was, but he didn't argue against Omri's decision. "It's the only way really," Patrick said. After that, he didn't talk about it anymore. He just tried to be at Omri's house as much as possible. He couldn't do things with Boone much, of course, even though, in a day or two, Boone was sitting up in the longhouse and demanding to talk to his horse, which was brought to the entrance for the purpose, and whinnying for all sorts of special food and drink. "I can't be expected to get my strength back if you won't give me some of the hard stuff," he nagged. He even pretended to have a relapse. Omri pinched a nose dropper full of whiskey from his parents' drinks cupboard and squeezed a large drop down Boone's throat before the Indian girl, whose name was Bright Stars, a reference to her shining eyes, Omri supposed, had succeeded in conveying the fact that Boone was perfectly all right and that his faint was faked. Still, after he'd had his drink, Boone seemed so much better that Omri and Patrick decided it wouldn't do him any harm. He's used to it, after all, and thereafter Boone got a liquor ration 3 times a day and did very well on it. "He'll be back to go back tomorrow," said Omri on the 4th day, when Boone, having had a leg up from Little Bear, managed to ride his horse around the seed box at a steady walk. "They'll probably look after him better than we can in his own time." A thought struck him, and he fished out of his pocket the drawing Boone had done. "Boone, is this your hometown?" "Sure is." Omri studied it closely under the magnifying glass. Away up the street he saw a little sign reading, "Doctor." "Is he a good doctor?" "About as good as any out west, I reckon. Fish a bullet out of a man's arm, or cut his foot off for snake bite, as neat as can be. I've seen him bring a pal of mine back from the dead, near enough, by putting a hot coal in his belly button. He never operates till a man's dead drunk, and he don't charge extra for the liquor either." Omri and Patrick looked at each other. "You'd feel that you were in good hands with this doctor looking after you?" Patrick asked worriedly. "Sure would. Anyhow, don't need no sawbones now. My wound's healing up fine. As long as I get my whiskey, I'll be good as new." Boone bore not the slightest ill will toward Little Bear for having shot him. That there is an Injun natural nature. Poor simple critter seed no help himself than I can keep away from my horse and my bottle. The night before Omri had decided to send them back, they held the brotherhood ceremony. "I wish we could ask our brothers," said Patrick to Omri at school that day. "Supposing we tell them one day about this. They'll never believe us." "Sending them back," said Omri slowly, "doesn't mean the magic won't work anymore. I'm going to put the key away somewhere so I won't be tempted, but it will always be there." Patrick looked at him wonderingly. "I never thought of that," he said slowly. "So there'd be nothing to stop us, months or even years from now, from bringing Boone and Little Bear back again, to visit." "I don't know," said Omri. "Maybe their time is different than ours. It would be awful if they were old or—" but he couldn't say dead. Both Boone and Little Bear came from such dangerous times. Omri shivered and changed the subject. "As for our brothers coming," he said, "all I want of my brothers is to keep that rat in its cage." The rat had been caught by Omri after a long patient wait with cheese and a fishing net, and Omri had threatened Gillen with the worst fate imaginable if he let it get away again. The two boys went to Yap's after school and bought feast food for the ceremony: salted nuts, chips, and chocolate. Omri bought a quarter-pound of the best meat at the butcher's for tiny hamburgers. A teaspoonful would have been enough, but the butcher wasn't interested in that. They got bread, biscuits, cake, and soda from Omri's mother, and Omri sneaked another dropperful of the hard stuff, without which Boone would certainly not consider it a festive occasion at all. Omri was rather surprised Boone had agreed to be brother to a stinking redskin at all, but Boone actually seemed rather to like the idea. "'Tain't just anyone gets to be brother to an Indian chief, you know," he said proudly as he rolled up his sleeve, and Bright Stars carefully swabbed his arm with soap and water. But when he saw Little Bear sharpening his knife on a pebble, he turned pale. "Heck, it'll hurt," he muttered, but Patrick told him not to be a coward. "It's only a little nick. It's nothing at all." "Easy for you," retorted Boone. "I ain't so sure this is such a nice idea, after all." But he cheered up when he saw the campfire being kindled and smelled the meat Bright Stars was cooking on a pointed stick. And when Omri gave him a good swig from the dropper, he swaggered up to Little Bear and offered his arm with a drunken flourish. "Chop away, brother," he said loudly. Little Bear went through a whole routine first, cleaning himself, offering up loud chanting prayers to the spirits, and performing a marvelous stomping dance around the fire. Then he nicked his own wrist with the point of his knife. The blood welled up. Boone took one look and burst into tears. "I don't wanna. I changed my mind," he bawled. But it was too late for that. Little Bear seized his arm, and before Boone knew what was happening, the deed was done. Bright Stars bound their wrists together with a strip of hide torn from the hem of her red dress. Boone looked at it in a bemused way and said, "Gee whiz, we done it. I'm part Injun. Well, I guess I can't say nothing against 'em in the future." Then the two brothers sat on the ground, and Bright Stars served them the cooked meat and all the rest of the feast. Patrick and Omri offered their congratulations and started in on their own food. They kept the campfire going with tiny bits of broken matchsticks and a bit of coal dust Omri had collected in the outside bunker, which, when sprinkled on the flame, made it spit minute sparks. Looking at it and the three little figures around it, the boys gradually lost their sense of size altogether. "I feel as if I were the same as them," murmured Patrick.